All right. It says I'm alive. So, yay, I'm alive. Good morning, everybody. This is Becky here at Aunt Beck's Creations. And Tippy's being bad again. Tippy, stop. He finds a bag or a box of mine when he's bored or he wants me to do something and he starts tearing it apart. So, that's what the noise is in the background. That's Tippy having a temper tantrum. So I came on to do Friday sews, which I haven't done in a very long time. I'm not a weekly Friday sewer type of person to do a weekly Friday sews, but I do pop on, once in a while when I've made something, so I have something to share. I still have my banana for breakfast sitting here and what's left of my cold coffee. Good morning, Pam. But I did want to come on and just share a few things that I've been making. I did not just make this cat top I made years ago when I still worked at Joann Fabrics, which is probably now, let's see, I worked at Michael's for 5 years. We lived in Greenville for 5 years. We've been back here almost 5 years. And I don't know. I can't remember who I worked with between Joann's and Michael's. I don't remember. I've had so many different retail jobs. It's not funny. But I had made this, and this is a tunic that was in one of those everything patterns. It had a couple tops and pants and either a shorts or a skirt. I don't remember the pattern or the number or any of that because, like I said, this is probably a 15 to 20-year-old shirt. Okay. Hi, Vicki. But last year, I was wearing this one day. I don't know if it was for Thanksgiving or what. It was chilly. So I grabbed the cleanest long sleeve shirt I had, which I don't have very many long sleeve shirts. So I put this one on and I went over to my mother-in-law's, and I call her my sister-in-law, but she's my brother-in-law's wife. So I guess that still makes her my sister-in-law. She's my sister through marriage, basically. So I had this on, and Jane, that's my sister-in-law, she just loved it. And so I said, well, I could make you one. And I couldn't locate this pattern. So Joann's was having a sale before they closed, and I thought she might like this one. So I actually picked up both size ranges because they had a size Y, which was an extra small, small, and medium, and then the other one that was the larger sizes. So because I need the larger sizes. So I got this just specifically to make this top for Jane, and it's McCall's M8343. And what I did for her is a combination of A and B because I did the zipper collar, like it's on here, and then I did the cuffs at the sleeves and the bottom, like in B has that. I did not put the pocket on the front because I didn't know if Jane would want that, since I didn't have a pocket on the front of this one, the pouch pocket. But it does have an option. Let's see. You see the pouch right there, pouch pocket. I cut it out, and then I had second thoughts because the pocket wasn't lined, and with this being fleece, I could just see it stretching and stretching and stretching. So I said, well, I could line it and stabilize it that way, but then I just gave up on the whole pocket idea. But let me back up. And of course, Jane is a dog girl, so she did not want cats. So I went to Joann's and got dog fabric, and I made this top for Jane. And I did pretty good in some areas. The most important one is right here. I did that on purpose to make sure it would match up. And it's a denser fleece. Of course, this has been washed I don't know how many times, the cat top, but this turned out really pretty good. And I did my best to stretch the cuff to fit the arm. And I did have a little bit of what looks like I gathered it, but it's not bad enough that I'm going to take the cuffs off and redo them. I think it looks fine. It does zip, so she could use it as a layered item and wear a shirt underneath it. So the collar does zip open. See there? And the yoke and the collar are fully lined, and I had to hand sew all of that down. I do need to wash it and then run a lint brush over it, so I'm not giving her a bunch of cat hair. She did have a cat. I don't know if she still has a cat or if they're strictly a dog house now. Household. But anyway, I think it turned out pretty good. I think Jane is going to like it. I don't know if they're coming for Thanksgiving or not, but it's made. I may just mail it to Tennessee. So there was that. That was a make. And then because that was from my jar here, I did pull the next project. And I'm going to show that to you. But the project before this one was the Stonehenge stone chips charm blocks that I had picked up at a thrift store for like $4. And there was 2 packs of them. And I had made 2 baby quilts, and I want to show you my progress on that because I have made some progress on that. I need to prop the door open so the cats can go in and out. They're having a fit over here. Yes, Howard, I know. He won't go out unless the door is propped because he's afraid he's going to get caught out there. So let's see. I think I've got room enough here. So this is one of the tops here. That I'd gotten this far. And I had purchased, you can see that, yeah. I'd gone to the place I don't like to shop and got a couple backing fabrics. But I got this one with kind of a like hunt cabin, maybe fishing, wildlife, and I thought it would make a beautiful backing for this one. So I got that one, and it's ready to be layered up, but I started with the other one, and I want to show you my progress on that one. This one, I think I will quilt on my sewing machine because the first one I'm doing, actually I bought, this is hand quilting thread, but I was thinking I would do this one on the machine just to get it finished faster. Hand quilting is beautiful, but it does take a little bit more time. And I'm doing this on the flat on my table, and I stand and I quilt. So let me show you how far I got on the other one. I'm going to set this back over here. And this is the one I have layered up, and I put, I've frozen. That was weird. I've put the some sea turtles on it. I'm going to try to get this light so it's not shining directly on me, because I think that's really blowing the color out. So this one is layered up, and you always want the backing and the batting to be bigger than the actual quilt front, and then you trim it down. So this is the back of it and how it's looking so far. I don't know if you can even see the quilting on it. You can see it a little bit here and there. And I did mark it with chalk. So here's the front of the quilt. And the red lines you see, that's my lines to follow to quilt it. And this one's taking a little bit of time, but I'm getting there. It's getting closer each time I work on it. So this will be another baby quilt to set aside, because I have nieces and nephews. that are still in the family building stage. And everybody seems to have boys these days. So that's those two quilts. Uh-oh. I'm going to lose this brown thread yet. Tuck it back in there. Then yesterday, I pulled the next project from the jar, and it says the 2025 Project Dress-A-Girl quilt, but it's not actually the 2025. It's from the year I did 15 dresses. So probably year before last. So it's probably 2023 Project Dress-A-Girl dress quilt. I was trying to think of a project where I could do a project with my leftovers, my remnants, and then I would have something I could keep to cherish and remember making the dresses for the little girls. So that's what this one was. And I pulled it out. I'm going to set this over here because I'm going to sit down to talk about the final bits. I've got to be careful because I've got the next step pinned on, but I was going to show it to you guys. Yesterday, I added a narrow green border to the outside edge. So I added the narrow green border, and this is the quilt so far. So you can see. And then I'm now adding, this is just pinned on, so I've got to be careful with it. It's going to have a pieced border like this. This is just pinned on here, this part here. And then you'll see the green will come, it'll reappear as a 1-inch border. And then I'll have this pieced border. And after this pieced border, I have another green border that is slightly wider than the original green border. And hang on, let me fold this back up. But you can see I've got that pinned on there ready to go. I don't know how Leanna at Pastry Queen adds borders without pinning them on. I always have to pin mine in place. Maybe I'm just not brave enough. But Leanna at Pastry Queen, she is currently working on quilts for teens at the homeless shelters near her. So that's a good project too. But this quilt is going to be very special to me because it's a memory quilt of all those little dresses I made using all these different fabrics. So there's that. And these are the additional pieced borders that I've made from the leftovers. So I got those. And then the next border after the piece border is still in the bag. And thankfully, I had wrote myself all these little notes in here. So this was the width of that original strip of the green that I put on yesterday. Hi, Katinka. So I put this strip on yesterday. And like I said, thankfully, I had written myself a bunch of little notes. So I've got my little note here that says a 1.5-inch border, a green border, then the pieced border, then a 2-inch border. So after I get that pieced border on, I'll put these strips on. And I do have to do the, the 45 angle join. I have to do that to make the strips long enough for the quilt. The actual quilt piecing is called Logging Out. And it was a downloadable project from somewhere. I'm not seeing the web address, but this was the original idea of the quilt. So one row of the blocks have this like 4-patch on them, but then the next row of the blocks are like stacked logs, which looked really cool. So, and I'm doing my border not just a big wide border. Mine's, you know, like the green, the piece, the green. Then I have that year I had done 15 dresses. So I have a heart to represent every dress I made that year. And I think that one, I used my all-time favorite pattern, which I think was also a McCall's, and the number was 2004. And I've used it so much, I never forget that pattern. I don't have it pulled out to show you, but I have, basically this was a little heart pocket, and I cut one out for each dress. So I have 15 of these hearts that I want to put somehow onto the quilt to represent all the little dresses. I don't know if I'll do them as a swag down one side, or if maybe I'll just put them on the back in a row, but I'm going to applique these onto the quilt in some way. So there was a little dress. Good morning, Kathy D. I'll show you all the different dresses. That was a dress, or the pockets of it. There's a video on my channel of me showing the dresses from this year. Or maybe these aren't. Maybe I don't know how many dresses I made now, because some of these look like fabrics that I would put together. So maybe these are only representing like 8 dresses instead of 15, because one may have been the dress and then one fabric may have been the pocket. I don't remember. It's been a while. It's been a couple years. And yes, I'm horrible about starting projects and then not getting them finished. Scott was well pleased with the top for Jane, so I'm glad to have that done. And I'll work on this quilt. And I might actually pull out one of those quilt frames that I got at the thrift store for like $6. I might pull one of those out and get Scott to help me set it up, because I think that would make hand quilting so much easier. Is Kathy D here? Good morning, Kathy D. Good morning, Melanie. And some of these do have interfacing on the back of them. And I may go back and add interfacing to all of them because it makes them more substantial. And I may do a 1/4 inch stitch around them. And that way I could clip these curves and this would fold over, so I could get a nice smooth appliqued edge. And I think with the interfacing on it, it's going to be easier to do that. So I'll do a narrow 1/4 inch around the whole thing, and then snip on the curves, and then it'll fold in, and I'll press it good, and then I can pin it down and applique it on by hand. I don't mind hand sewing. I can put a movie on and just sit and hand sew, because most of the movies I'd want to watch are old movies, so I already know all the lines. They're in my head. So yeah, so that was another project from my jar. And I'm enjoying doing this, where I just pull together a bunch of projects and create a numbered list like this. And on this list, we had 9 projects. And I am working my way through, and I'm on the 4th number pull. And then what's left in here are the numbers, just the numbers for here. And then I've been stapling them on and putting the date of when I drew them and when I finished them. The projects for the Monday Stitch group, I finished those and mailed them out. I only have one left here, and I was waiting for the Canada post to go, and that's going to somebody in Canada. Yeah, so I have my bathroom curtain, which I really need to do that because we're taking a bath in there with no curtain on the window, which could get dodgy, except the window is on our screened porch. It's not screened. That's where the cats go. And it's just got fence up on it. But that door out there is kept locked and nobody can see in the window. So it's just, I'm thinking it would be warmer in there if I finish that. So I'm kind of hoping that number pops up soon. I have something called the pins and needle jumper that, oh, I remember. That was that funny panel that I picked up in that bundle of fabric that I found at the thrift store that I used for Project Dress a Girl, that was one of those 1980s-ish printed panels where you get like the bodice and you just cut it out around it. And do you remember those? And then there was additional yardage to do this skirt. So I have that. And then I actually did the Project Dress a Girl quilt. Oh, you know what? I have two different things. So I'm actually supposed to be working on this year's Project Dress a Girl. So I'm actually working on the previous one because on number 6, it says applique hearts on previous Dress a Girl quilt. So I do have a 2025 Dress a Girl project. Remember, I cut all those squares out. I messed up. But what I'll do is I'm going to just change those numbers on my list. What a bozo that was. Anyway, so we're going to change number 4 to be number 6 and number 6 to be number 4. And I'll just draw arrows on my list. See? And that way I'll know exactly what I did. That was boneheaded, wasn't it? And then I have the pink rose dress that's going to be done in that real lawn fabric, real thin, where the pattern calls for me to apply interfacing to the entire fabric, which I've never done that before. So that's something I've never done before. And then the black dress from McCall's M7920 using that big pile of fabric I got at the thrift store. There's probably enough fabric there to make several things. I could probably make a jacket to go with the dress if I wanted to. But I wanted a kind of mourning outfit to wear to funerals, because I don't have anything. Have a wonderful day, hon. All right. Just keep in mind it's Friday. Oh, yeah. My son is leaving for work. So let's see. That is all of the sewing I have. I can't believe I messed up on that quilt project because I think subconsciously I wanted to work on the older quilt first. So let me just say hey to everybody. I know the seamstress at the cottage, you guys, is Katinka, and she's doing an hour live. I think it starts 8 o'clock my time. And she just sews and chats for about an hour. And she's kept me company while I worked on this top here. I had some new techniques that I learned with this one. I've never done an inset kind of yoke panel like this, where you had to do all that hand sewing on the inside. And it was interesting how they put this on. Is you sewed the panel only part way down to the front section, which this is like a big U here. And then these pieces were only applied down to a notch, and you left all of this unsewed until you put the zipper in. And then once the zipper was in, you finished sewing this, and you had to do a stabilizing stitch here and then cut to the corner of it. It was very interesting. I've never done that before. And then there was all that hand stitching to put the on the inside. It has lining just on this section. And you had to press the edges over and hand sew it all the way around. And then the back of the collar, you left the lining on the collar open between like this much of the neck, like from shoulder seam to shoulder seam. And then you just fold that up and press it, and then you had to hand stitch that down, which all of that was pretty cool. Hi, Lala. I hope you don't have a headache today, Lala. It's Friday. You need to not have a headache today. yesterday in our craft and chat, we started a little bit later. And for anybody that doesn't know, there's a group of us that get together. Mondays, we're supposed to get together to do a stitch hour, but we're yackers. So we stay until Scott comes home from work or somebody else is ready to go. And it's a messenger group, just a few of us ladies, and we're just get together and we create or just talk. And yeah, we did that. And then Thursday and Friday, we have a messenger room called Ann's Room. And we have to add you. So if you are friends with me on Facebook or you're friends with Ann, it's called Ann's Room because Becky ran out of gumption and we just gave the room Ann's Room. And then when Facebook quit having groups or rooms, we had to just set up a messenger group. And that's why we can't just invite people unless you ask to be invited to it. And on Thursdays and Fridays, we were starting at 10, but most people can't get there till later on Thursdays. So I said, let's just start on Thursdays at 12. And that way, anybody that's signed up for classes or whatever doesn't have to miss a bunch of conversation. And we'll just start a little bit later. Today, we'll start at 10 o'clock. So there's that. So you just have to let me know. But anyway, yesterday during Craft and Chat, I grabbed the covers for my thankfulness journal, and I just covered them with the hang on. No, I didn't use that one. Again, my art carts are now over here where I can get to them better. But I did a coating of the Deco Arts Americana Duraclear High Gloss. I like shiny things, so I generally reach for high gloss. I know a lot of people would rather have a matte finish, but not me. I like shiny. So I shinied up my covers, and I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not. There's a little shine. Ooh. So these are my covers made from recycled cardboard. And so when we get together next Wednesday at 1:30, we'll do the inside of our covers. So on the front, I'm going to have my 23 things to represent the 23 leaves I have on the outside of my journal. So however many leaves you put on the front of your journal, come up with that number of things you're very thankful for, and we'll put them on here. And then I just want you to find a quote that just speaks about being thankful and thankfulness, and we'll put that on the back side and maybe do a little paper piece collage or something in the back. And then the next Wednesday, we'll start working on our 3 pages. And again, these journals are just recycled cardboard. And we might want to, maybe I'll come up with a list like I did for autumn and fall. I made that list of quotes and put it on my community tab so anybody can print those off. If you print them on sticker paper, then you can just peel and stick them anywhere you want to use them. If you have like a daily journal or anything like that, you could use those. And those are not all my quotes. If I had the author's name, I added it to the quote, so you can give them credit if you use any of those quotes. Those quotes are all over online, and I'm just sharing them. I'm not selling them. So I'm just sharing something that you can utilize in your journals, and I'm hoping I don't get in trouble for that. But anyway, I created the list of quotes that you can just print off, and I'm thinking of doing that with some quotes about thankfulness. So we'll have those, and then we'll put our little journal together, and it'll be like the previous journals, which I still haven't put away. I need to do that because the cats, for some reason, they love the ribbons and the bits. So this was a previous one for anybody new. That was our autumn journal. And that was our spring journal. And they were bound either with a slip knot binding, which is one of my favorites that I learned from Tanya McGuire and Lisa, My Eclectic Life. Or I've did like a corset lacing on that one with ribbon. So you don't have to do a fancy binding. You can just, if you all you have is ribbon, see that's the slip knot binding. And then what makes it so wonderful is your book always lays flat. And this was our Sweet Summertime journal. And so I love to do these little journals because we're using nothing but recycled stuff, recycled cardboard. This was actually the little cardboard that came between the cans of Fancy Feast cat food. I don't get that anymore. Although the new vet said that the cats would do better on pate, but I can't afford canned cat food for 5 cats. So there's that. But anyway, this is our goal, another little 5x7 journal. And we'll come up with some fun things to do on the pages. And I think that's all I have for you guys. Oh, Laura, you finally caught me in an early morning. Yeah. I'm not going to get started because then I'll get all political and then somebody will get mad at me because I'm all political. But anyway, let me just pan my room for anybody that hasn't seen the changes yet. I'm going to move the shirt rack real quick. I'll just move this over here. Okay, so I'm going to leave it right here for just a second. You can see that's my sewing area over there. And I've got my sewing machine and then my serger. And yes, Katinka, I do use my serger. It just has stuff piled around it. I have to move all my stuff around. So I try to keep my wet art on this side of the room and anything that's dry on that side. And if I'm going to sit here and participate in craft and chat or watch anything on the screen, I will clear away anything that's wet. Like I have a knitting project here, the little sweater I'm working on here. And I just make sure there's no wet around the stuff that needs to stay dry. But anyway, then that's my kitchen in there where I cook all the fabulous food. That tower right there is my rubber stamps. And then I have my 2 art carts, which are Harbor Freight, just trolleys. And they have everything on them. These are like basic tools that I reach for all the time. My pens, watercolor stuff, papers, and then paints. And then in this corner is the CPU unit. And then underneath it is got costume patterns that I don't necessarily reach for all the time. I do love to keep y'all's art in all around me all the time. These were, I did the center canvas. That's a mandala I drew and colored and did all the work on. I did that in 2021. And then the 2 canvases were made way before that. And I had a challenge on my channel for everybody to make me I think it was a 4x4 art canvas. And then when they came in, I created these larger canvases with lots of layering and texture paste and all this stuff. And then I just glued y'all straight on there. The only mistake I wish I had done is I wish I'd recorded everybody's name on the inside of the canvas because I don't know who made what. I could go back and look at my videos and figure them out. But yeah, those canvases were fun to make. And then I've got art from y'all. I've got the clipboard is Debbie Epps. The hog and the bird are from Dee Dee Willingham. And then the beautiful crab is from Heather. All right. So I'm going to spin you back around and past me. Ooh. And over here, I have more art from people on the wall. And then journals in progress are right there. And my glue and tape rack is there. And then that is sitting on one of the many sewing machines that Scott keeps buying because he knows I love sewing machines. But I think now it's become an obsession for him in that he is intrigued by the old machines. I'm not going to tell you how many sewing machines are in this house or out in the garage. I've lost count because he sneaks them in. So if I move my lamp over, I'll move these guys back over here. This is a drying rack from Walmart, and oh my goodness, I've used it for so many things. All right, and then over here, let's see. That tower of stuff with my frog hat on top of it is old magazines that I want to keep for projects. They're like Quilts and More, which I don't think is published anymore. That was my absolute favorite quilting magazine because it contained more than just quilts. It had all kinds of projects in it. And it's my die cutting station and blank cards and envelopes and that kind of thing. And then there's more other YouTubers' arts and some of my art. The red bird right here. I did this one. And then a lot of the rest of this, I think all of this is from Carol. And then that was from Rita. And I haven't seen Rita around YouTube since the big Hurricane Helene. So I'm hoping she survived that. That was a terrifying thing. The silver you see shiny, that's the vent that goes up into the attic and out to the main room. That's supposed to have closet doors on it. That's the linen closet. But because we haven't finished the floors in the hallway, that's still open. So just ignore it. It's ugly. It is what it is. I'm in process of getting this place back in order. Some of the dollies, the smallest little dolly in the rocking chair is mine from when I was little. And the other baby doll is just one I found abandoned at the Goodwill. And after I saw her twice at the Goodwill, I said, she has to come home with me. And the teddy bear followed her, the small teddy bear. The other two teddy bears are ones that I've made. Okay. So this brown teddy bear was actually a corduroy bear that was one of my unfinished projects in January that I finished in January. And he turned out cute. I want to make it a little dress or a vest or something. And then this one was a special project until it wasn't. I will still cherish the bear, but I will just say things were said that kind of made me sour on this whole project. And I posted that I would never do another collab with anybody because this situation really hurt me. So that's all I'm going to say about it. But it's a beautiful project. It's completely and totally hand stitched. She's hand sewn together. All of the embroidery was done, and everything's hand sewn on here. This is hours and hours and hours of work, and she will always be a cherished piece. But yeah, kind of soured me on that. But anyway, then the bureau that you see there contains interfacing, batting, cotton thread, or not cotton thread, thread for my serger. There's the cotton kind of rope to make the baskets out of that you cover with fabric, and other kind of sewing materials are in there. And then where you see the witch's hat back there, I made that as well. It needs to go back in the hall closet. Here, I made this poncho last year, poncho top. But I wanted to show this for anybody that hadn't seen it already. I made this, and when I worked at Joann's, we did a trick or treat for the kids, and everybody would put a hat or something on, and then we would, put ourselves around the store. And so the kids would go in the main aisle and walk around the store, and they'd get candy from each of us. We did that one year. But I did the ribbon roses on there. And it was just a lot of fun. And the reason this has to go back in the closet is the cats love the feathers. So it cannot stay down anywhere. Behind my dress form is more art from people online. And then that rack behind it that looks like a jumbled mess that I want to put a curtain in front of, it's got finished journals. It's got sewing type stuff like seam binding, piping, braid, trims, lace, all of that kind of stuff is over there. But it also includes like flat back pearls, rhinestones, small wooden pieces. Anything to decorate anything is on that rack. And then the fireplace is in our new favorite color called Jasper by, I don't know, Bear. And it's just a collection of things that we've gotten over the years that represent love to us. So I've got all of those over there. There's a picture of my grandparents on their wedding day over there. And then we're back to my sewing area where there's more art from y'all. The squares that you see just above the thread are mine, Ann's, and Kathy Whitney's boho blocks when we did the boho swap of the hand stitched squares. Those are the type of projects I like to do and swap with people, because then I can put the art up on my walls. And that way I have art from everybody that watches me. And if you send me something that is, so pretty I can't resist popping it in a frame, you might see it show up on a wall. Thank you, Lala. I'm going to set this back on the dress form because Callie's like, that smells like feathers. So I'll set that back up here. So that's a tour of my space. Had planned on doing that. I even dated this. This was done October of 2024. So this bear is a year old. This one I finished in January. I've got this thing about making toys, and I don't understand it at all. I want to put her somewhere else. Let me put her over here for right now. I need to look for a small rocking chair for that teddy bear. Now that I'm not looking at it with hurt feelings like I was. Anyway, so that's my space. Oh, I didn't tell you about the center. This is paper storage now under here. I used to have that along the wall over here. Hi, Sophia. But my flow was not working, so I knew something was off. So I did that switch. And so now some things that had been handy are slightly out, but they are things that I don't reach for all the time. When I'm setting up a space, I think about how I work. And if I help anybody else, I'm always asking them, okay, are you right-handed or left-handed? Where do you naturally reach for something? Always think about those things when you're setting up your space. Don't put something in a position just because it fits there. If it's not something you are going to naturally turn and reach for in that location, you're misplacing it. And it creates havoc, and it's just not easy to work. And so when I'm setting up a new workspace, and I used to do store remodels too, so I think about how things are used. I do have a metal shelf right here that's on the end, but it's stuff that I don't reach for all the time. So I don't mind going around the corner to get it. Now, if it was something repetitive like my glue should actually be over on the right hand side because I'm right handed, but my CPU is on that position and I don't want to move it because all the plugs line up. And if I move it, it'll block the window that's right behind us, behind y'all. So I do have my glues and tapes, but they are still within reach right there. They used to be over here, which was easier, but yeah, sometimes you have to just make slight variations. But if you put something like glue on the back side of this table, that's not going to work. That's going to get old quick. So anyway, that's me rambling now. I think I'll let you guys go because I need to get ready. So I'm ready to sew with Katinka in an hour, less than an hour. So I just sit, and if she asks me something, I run over and I type it in real quick, and then I go back to what I'm doing. I'm having so much fun in that hour because I'm actually working on things I've been putting off doing. So yeah. So thank you all for joining me this morning. And I've got to, is when, I guess I'll have to wait until after Katinka goes off because I don't think the pharmacy is open before then. So I'll see you guys later. I've got a lot to pack in before 10 o'clock. Take care, guys.